Amber and Asia. Oop. It's usually never like this. It's only because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Because I'm,
Okay, we're ready. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for waiting through our slight delay with the start of our meeting. I'm Beverly Griffin Dunn. I'm the Vice Chair of the School Committee, and I am just filling in until Mayor Betancourt arrives. He should be here momentarily. Pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order modifying the state's open meeting law, the December 8th, 2020 meeting of the PUD School Committee is being held in the library at the Higgins Middle School, and it is in accordance with the governor's order. There are strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. Every effort is being made for the public to adequately access this meeting in real time via technological means. Alternative public access to this meeting is being provided in the following manner. This meeting is being televised by PBD Access TV, and real-time public participation can be addressed to the school committee utilizing Zoom virtual meeting software. The application allows users to view the meeting and make a comment during public participation, and the link to that can be found on the PBD Public School web page. We're going to begin the meeting with a call to order, and we're going to do a roll call vote pursuant to the governor's regulations. All right.
Start with the pledge.
I'll do. All right. Those present, Dr. Wood, do you want to call the roll?
Certainly.
Okay.
Is this regular roll call vote?
Yeah.
Mr. Let me start. We'll start over here. Mr. Amico?
Present.
Mr. Arnottis?
Present.
Ms. Carpenter?
Present.
Mr. Hockman?
Present.
And Mr. Olympio? And
Present.
Ms. Dunn?
Present. And we're also joined this evening by Dr. Josh Vidala, our superintendent, our assistant superintendent, Dr. Chris Lord, and our business manager, Joseph Scanlon. Okay. Right now, if you could join me, please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next order of business will be approval of the minutes. The minutes are being taken by Leanna Harris, the school committee secretary, and she is doing this remotely. Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 24th, 2020 regular school committee meeting?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Arnottis, seconded by Mr. Amico. Is there any discussion? I actually have something. I would like to just request an amendment. This would be on page 5 of the minutes. It is just at the very end of the discussion about the high school memorial. And in the paragraph with my comments, I would just like to request that the very last line read that everybody needs to know that this topic has been an ongoing discussion, and insert at the high school since the beginning of the school year. The principal, and this is an additional, the principal was meeting with students and staff and working on the issues affecting people's opinions and views on both sides of this issue concerning components of the memorial. So moved.
Do you need a second for that?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Arnottis. Any further discussion? Okay. We'll take a roll call vote to approve the minutes as amended.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Mr. Arnottis?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hodgman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Ms. Griffin Dunn?
And now I can't vote.
We can-
As I'm sitting in the chair. That's okay. Thank you all very much. All right. Next item of business is approval of bills. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant 4645 dated December 8th, 2020, in the amount of $100,855.52, subject to audit.
Second.
A motion made by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mr. Olympio. Is there any discussion? Okay. Roll call vote.
Mr. Amico? Yes. Mr. Onotis?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Ms. Gr- oh,
Present. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant 4646 in the amount of $318,680.31 dated December 8th, 2020, subject to audit.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Carpenter, seconded by Mr. Olympio. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call vote.
Mr. Amico? Yes. Mr. Onotis?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes,
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
And Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
All right.
that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Okay, continued business. The item here about the Welch School MSBA project update, I will give you a brief update on that. The Welch School Building Committee is meeting this Thursday at 9:30 in the morning. We will have a Zoom meeting. And the agenda for that meeting includes quite a bit of things, but one very, very specific item is the preliminary design program has been sent out to the members of the committee, and it will be up for a vote on Thursday as to allowing it to be submitted to the MSBA. When that document is submitted, the MSBA will be reviewing it, and then the MSBA will hopefully approve the preliminary design program as proposed. It's a very lengthy document, and it will be available to the public and definitely to the school committee members. And I think you will be very, very impressed when you read the amount of information contained in that report about what the plans are for the Welch School. These are all just preliminary plans, and the committee will go forward on all those details over the next numerous months. The people who prepared that report from Doran Whittier pulled together an amazing document. It really is very impressive. And I really would like to thank members of our staff who assisted with that, specifically Marge Marcarelli for pulling all kinds of information together, Joe Scanlon, the business manager, for helping with the capital budget statement, and Dr. Vidala, Mrs. Massa, and all our educators who have been working on and Dr. Lord, who've been working on the education plan that goes hand in hand with the building plan. There's a lot included in this, and it's really, I just saw about an hour ago, so I'm still in awe of what got produced. I also want to tell you there was a very successful and enjoyable presentation on December 1st. One of the requirements when you work with MSBA is to have community participation. So we had a community meeting, which normally would be held in the school. It would be something in the cafeteria. You'd have the PTO would bake brownies and serve refreshments, and all the people at the school would come in and hear about what's going on. And of course, we couldn't do that. So, thanks to PATV and our IT department, we were able to have that meeting, and close to 400 people viewed that. And it was really very, very nicely done. There were all kinds of drawings and explanations of what could be. There are a lot of things that happen at the Welch that are really the nuts and bolts in the building. Those go without saying. But the thought of rearranging different classroom spaces, being able to utilize the space that currently is there and make the best of it, this is really going to be a very interesting project. And hopefully the people who watched that enjoyed it, and we will have other community meetings going forward so that we can keep everyone apprised of the work that's being done. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Anything at all? Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on. Okay. Dr. Vidala, the superintendent's report, and we have some really special things to go over tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. I'm very excited that the first item on the superintendent's report is our first student presentation of the year, and it couldn't be a better one. We've really talked a lot about, since I began as superintendent, of elevating student voice and really giving our students an opportunity to have their voices heard, and things that are important to them that we bring to light, and we give them a platform so that we can hear from them. And tonight, we have two seniors, Asia Almonte and Amber Kirakopoulos, who are really talking about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is mental health awareness. And they've really gone above and beyond, and they're going to share a project that they began that has become more than just a project. It's really become something that the community can embrace. And it started out as a project, and they're going to tell you a little bit about why this was something that they chose to do, and sort of the procedure that they went through. But then they're going to talk about next steps, and this isn't just a project that is going to end tonight with some of the things that they've done, and I don't want to steal their thunder. But I'll turn the mic over to them. But I think this is something that they have some great ideas, and we'll continue this conversation, and they're going to share some of that today. So I'd like to turn the mic over to Asia and Amber, who can introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what their project entails.
Okay, so I'm Amber, and I'm Asia. So first of all, thank you all for wearing your shirts and supporting us. This project means a lot to us, and it started back in May when I had a fundraiser. I started a little fundraising page, and I expected to raise like $200. My goal wasn't even above that. And I ended up gaining so much support, and now I've raised over $4,000, and it's still climbing. So Peabody DECA gave us an amazing opportunity to let my campaign skyrocket, and me and Asia partnered up together, and we started our campaign called Mental Health Matters. And we first started by, creating an Instagram, and then we went into starting with athletics. So we first just came up with the idea. We were just sitting in class. We were sitting in DECA class, and it just kind of brought to mind, wow, Amber's fundraiser back in May, that would be amazing, because DECA is more than just a project. You have to write a paper with it, and there's so much that goes with it. But at the end of the day, we didn't really care too much about how successful we were in that aspect. It was more we cared about the lives that we were affecting and leaving an impact on somebody, and at least just touching someone's heart. But some of the events that we got to do, due to COVID, it was for sure difficult because you can't do too many things in person. So we had to resort to the most contactless ways possible that would still be impactful for people. But back in October at Peabody High, thank you to Mr. Bua, he made this possible for us. We did Peabody High Athletics Go Green for Mental Health Week, and we had all of our sports teams at Peabody High. Well, not only at Peabody High, but also throughout the whole Northeastern Conference. I know Masco participated, Swampscott, Beverly, Danvers. It was incredible how many people wanted to join in on us, but luckily for DECA, they got to sponsor us, and we got people to wear green captain's bands for our captains so that we could have our leaders show their support, and green pre-wrap as headbands and green tape on their socks and their wrists to support mental health and spread awareness. And so our big thing behind that was athletics. To us, we're really involved. We're both captains, and athletics is like a spot where mental health, people go to play sports to just let go and have a safe place that they can, just put everything out there on the field and forget about all their struggles. And this started, mental health is something really near and dear to my heart. It affects loved ones every day. And with COVID coming, I just knew that, we had to do something, because suicide rates sadly are increasing with COVID, and more teenagers are getting depressed. And I feel like it's just not something talked about enough. And also in the school system, we would love to, continue to bring awareness, and thank you for you guys to really listen to us and allow us to spread our message through the community. So that's why, as you heard, we had our citywide Green Out Day today and yesterday. And we got a sponsorship from New York Life, the insurance company. another insurance company, no, actually a construction company, and then PUD DECA sponsored the rest, and also Salem 5 Bank gave us a grant that we were able to supply everybody with a shirt, and including the mayor too, and all the teachers and the school committee. So they all wear them today and yesterday, and a bunch of students. We had so much participation, and like spirit was like flowing through the school with green, because green is like the color for mental health. So it was really amazing, but yeah, we just didn't expect our project to take off so fast.
Yeah, I mean, when we started it back in September, we knew we had to get started really quickly because we had certain deadlines we needed to meet, and not that it was more like rushed, but we just needed to get going and start thinking of ideas. But we created our Instagram account called Mental Health Matters 2021, and we have over 400 followers on there, and we created a segment that inspired over 10 brave people to share their stories on their mental health struggles, and totally voluntary. It's one of the most supportive social media pages that like I've seen, and we wanted to, because we couldn't do much in person, so social media was a big resort for us that we wanted to focus on. And yeah, we made social media a really impactful thing, and it was nothing but supportive, and we were really happy with that turnout.
Yeah, so like it was a segment called Share Your Story, where we started, you know, making it seem like a safe place where you can reach out and ask for help. And we also were like posting a lot of resources to reach out. And so then we started our segment inspiring people to like message us their story, but you know, all voluntary, like Asia said, and you know, to like put it out there and speak about their struggles, because it's really important to like, you know, have people come out and speak about their struggles, because so many people are scared to, because they think they're alone. And it was great to have, you know, people be able to like share their stories out there, and have people be like, oh, you know, I'm fighting depression too, and it's not just me, it's everybody. But like that's why we like we're really trying to like shed a light on this issue, because it's really not something talked about enough, and we're really hoping to like really drive it into the brains of everybody that, you know, it's okay if you're hurting, it's okay to go get help. And I just feel like that we really want to take care of our mental health, like our physical health, so we really want to push for that.
And we saw Mayor Betancourt put a post on Facebook for us today, and he said that during a time of like pretty much complete isolation during the pandemic, that it's something that it's okay to not be okay, and nobody's alone, and mental health truly does matter, especially during a pandemic. I mean, the timing, I feel like, unfortunately, due to a pandemic, but the timing was perfect for this project, because I think like we just got so many supporters, and it was just a way to like really bring people together, where we didn't expect this to take off, and we didn't expect this to be so popular. And I think at the beginning we were nervous because we didn't know how much support we would get, but it's overwhelming at this point, and it just keeps spreading through the city, and it's very exciting. I didn't think we would have this much of an impact, but we did, and I'm very proud.
And overall, like the big purpose behind our project is, I have something written out. So the purpose of Mental Health Matters is to raise awareness and encourage families, schools, and the community as a whole to speak more about the importance of mental health. We push to have teachers, staff, coaches, and other leaders spark the conversation of mental health, which will get help to those who need it. Awareness will reduce negative adjectives that have been set to describe people with a mental illness. Our intention overall is to have mental health be seen and treated like a physical illness. So that's our purpose behind, you know, this whole thing. And like through our project, we expect to like increase local awareness throughout the community, and hopefully have schools speak more about mental health. And we really hope to inspire people to reach out for help as well.
Yeah, and like I said before, we basically started this no matter how successful it was. We would just hope that we could help at least one person. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter if we were close to them, didn't matter if I didn't know them at all. I wanted people to feel comfortable coming to me and Amber, us having our own experiences with each other with struggles like this. And like, I just think it's so important to have somebody that you can go to all the time. And you don't have to be the closest with them, you don't have to be friends with them. Just have somebody as to be your comfort and your safe place. And that was really just my purpose behind it, and of course Amber's too. But as long as I got to impact one person, that was really my goal. But this is bigger than just a DECA project, and at the end of the day, I just want to help somebody in a positive way. And yeah, but our project, we don't want to stop our project here. As Dr. Vidala said, we have plenty of plans. I know some of them might be a long shot, and it's a lot to present right now, but we have a few ideas that we would like to bring back to another meeting and totally talk about, but if
Yeah.
Amber, you want to mention it?
Yeah, so, we don't want to like put anything out there, too far, because I mean, there's so much on everyone's plate right now. But, other than, having mental health be talked about more at school and have it be more topic that people can come out and talk about, we really wanted to like push something about, we have an idea about mental health days in the classroom. It's a long shot, and it probably will be a long process, like with the handbook, maybe back in the spring coming up, about just having mental health days like noted. Therefore, faculty can notice when kids are taking mental health days and be like, oh, this kid really needs to get help. So, we'd love to come back if you guys wanted to hear more about like our plan that we have.
Yeah, we didn't want to overwhelm anybody, but just some of the stuff that we were brainstorming, because even after we compete for DECA, we still wanted to continue the project, no matter how far that goes. But yeah, I mean,
If I don't know, it may be like a long shot right now, but if anybody has any questions or anything,
we're open to hearing them.
or any thoughts.
Well, thank you both very much. This was really interesting, and what you're doing for mental health, for your classmates and for everyone, it's a phenomenal project. It really is. I'm going to open it up to school committee members, and they will have questions for you, and we will be inviting you back.
Okay.
Okay?
Yay.
So
Awesome.
remember that. Don't
Thank
worry.
you.
Mr. Miko.
Through the chair to Asian Amber, thank you so much. I don't think this is going to be brief, though. I'm going to be honest with you. I think we're all going to go around, so.
Okay,
I hope you
awesome.
don't make any plans. I just want to applaud you for bringing this up, and for including schools, community, former superintendents, Dr. Levine and our late Ms. Kara Murtagh, and now Dr. Vidal are all really interested in mental health awareness. And I remember when I came onto this school committee, I recall, I think we only had 2 or 3 school adjustment counselors in the whole city. And I couldn't believe it, coming from a district where I teach in Revere, where we have many, but still not enough.
Yeah.
And I can assure you that what you've done tonight and what you're doing will certainly be very important to us. And I would ask Dr. Vidala, who from his time in Revere has done a lot of work with mental health issues, and kind of that's your forte, other than special ed. It really is. That's what you did down there in Revere, and I would ask that Dr. Vidala really put a lot of effort into the next few weeks, months, and years into really making this a part of who we are as a school, because this is so important. I also want to applaud you for including underclassmen. Freshmen, sophomore, juniors through DECA. You've brought them up, and great leaders. Not only are they doing what you are doing, but now you're leading. You're putting up the ladder, and you're allowing others to lead down the road, because you're off to great things. I won't say you're off to better things, because I don't think there's anything better than Peabody, but I think you guys are off to great things. It sounded like Mayor Betancourt there, I don't know. But your coaches, your colleges and universities, your next, are so lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Please come back to us.
We'd love
and
to.
Let us know what we can do collectively as a school committee or individually, because you've hit a big one here. This is awesome.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we really hope to inspire the younger generations, because I mean, we're just 2 seniors. We just thought of an idea, and it really only takes one small idea to turn it into something big. So we really hope to inspire young people that it's really good to do good things. So, and thank you guys for giving us this opportunity to, there's a great community in Peabody, and we have so many opportunities like Peabody DECA. So
Yeah.
I'll yield.
Okay. Mr. Inotis.
Thank you. Well, Asia and Amber, you guys should be incredibly proud of yourselves. It's really tremendous what you guys have done here in a short amount of time, too. I mean, you guys have covered a lot of ground really quick. And I have to tell you, I mean, I was where you were, less than 10 years ago, and this was not a conversation that anyone was having in that building. So what you guys have done is really kind of pioneering, the mental health conversation in our district. And you should be so proud of that. I do hope you run with this, keep expanding it, and I do hope you know that the impact that you're having, yes, you've talked to people, and I'm sure even people who haven't come forward, I'm sure you're having an impact on them, because there's always people who, they're not going to want to speak up, but they're going to look to people like you who are leaders, who start that conversation, who get it out there, who make it more comfortable to speak about mental health and the issues that come along with that. So keep it going, keep running. I'm sorry I don't have my shirt on. I did wear green. That's my fault.
You still have your green,
but
though.
thank you so much for what you're doing, and I definitely hope we can have as many conversations as possible in the future about this, but keep up the good work and keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arnottis. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. Asia and Amber, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. You're our first kind of guests in a long time, so it's exciting.
It's nice to talk positively.
Yeah.
People.
I want to tell you, out of all the movements you could have picked to be a champion of, this is the absolute most important one right now for the entire world, okay? This is so important. You talked about, you're not alone. I don't think our students or anybody has ever felt as alone as they do right now. The isolation is overwhelming. This mental health is so serious and critical right now that your movement that you have going on right now came at the best time. It really did. You talked about through social media, you put posts out, you put out resources. That's the way that youth connects now. And sadly, most of them are at home sitting on social media. So you're probably reaching way more people than you think you are. What you're doing is so important. Amber, I've known you for a long time, and I really don't expect anything less than this. I mean, all the years that I've known you and on teams, you've been a cheerleader, you've always been positive. Asia, I've heard wonderful things about you as well. I know my kids run in the same circles. What you're doing is so important, and please don't stop. Please keep posting. Please keep sending those resources out there, and I want to see you back here real soon.
We'd love to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hawk?
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. Wow. You're thanking us for us inviting you here to speak to us. If that doesn't speak volumes about who the two of you are, I don't know what does. Not only during this pandemic, but we have as a committee recognized the difficulty that students have with mental health for a long, long time. It's probably the primary reason that the health center is in the high school is more for mental health than physical health. And we did that consciously. I've been on this board a long time, and we made the biggest mistake I think I made on this board is during one budget session where we cut school adjustment counselors back so dramatically that principals were pulling their hair out and screaming at us, and rightfully so. But for the two of you to take this on at this time in with such humility and being so humbled, and really you should step back and see how dramatic of an impact that you have had, not only on our community but on other communities. There are people wearing green to sporting events all over the Northeast because of what you two have started. Think about that. I mean, that's hugely significant. I used to teach a teen group in my temple, teen boys, and I would say to teen boys in particular, because girls tend to be more social, although there's other negative components to that sometimes. But boys don't express feelings to each other. Boys don't express feelings to girls or family members, and they hold stuff in, and it becomes very, very difficult for a lot of young men to express feelings. And the two of you are working towards changing that, and as well as giving everybody else a platform to speak openly about things that are affecting them emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally. And that's really incredible. So thank you. Continue doing what you're doing. Let us know what we can do to help you.
Okay.
Let us know what we can do as a school community, as a school board, to provide you with resources that will allow you to continue this work. You're both graduating seniors. I hope that you carry this program and your message to wherever you land next year.
We will.
Because it really is important. And you'll see as you talked about passing it on to the younger generation, and I chuckled because you are the younger generation. So as I try to cover up my gray hair. But, for people your age to take on this with such class and such grace and without infringing or imposing upon the fragility of the people who you're trying to help is really remarkable. So keep it up. Great job. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you.
And we're happy to be in your presence.
Oh,
So thank you.
you.
Thank you for allowing us to be with you.
Of course. And while you mentioned about having other people participate, I forgot to add that the Higgins Middle School will be participating in the Green Out too on this Thursday and Friday. And also Masco, some girl reached out to me and saw our project and she's like, oh, I'd love to do a Green Out for Mental Health Day. So one's also being held at Masco on December 17th. So they're joining us too.
Well, it was funny because people, when we were posting about our Green Out Days in Peabody, people were saying to even some of our friends, not even to us directly, they were like, wow, I wish my school did this.
Yeah, they did.
And I was like, wow, I mean, I didn't expect us to just be so successful and other people to just jump on and come along on the ride with us. I didn't really expect any of that, but it was just so cool to me that someone was just like, wow, I really wish my school did something like that because we didn't think it would go this far.
You guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. And I will say one last remark. Mr. Olympio and I, we received T-shirts, but Mr. Amico and Ms. Carpenter didn't, so we graciously allowed them to wear
Thanks, Mr. Hockman.
Is that why this is so tight on me?
Mr. Olympio, I know you wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you both. I'm just sitting here, if I had daughters, there it is right there. I mean, honestly, just looking at you two, listening to you two gets me choked up. Extremely proud. Everything that's going on in the world, all of the negative comments and bickering and divisiveness, the fact that you two are sitting here and we're grateful to have you as part of our community just means the world to us. As you get older, you morph into your 20s and 30s and 40s. The years, they kind of blend together, but you're only this age once for a short period of time. And I got to tell you, what you're doing, the work that you're doing now and the awareness that you're spreading, people are going to remember this 30, 40 years from now. I mean, even when I bump into people that I went to Peabody High with, they talk about some of the real struggles they had back in the 80s, and people did not talk about these things. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, it was something to be ashamed of. But what you're doing right now is you're making an impact on students' lives that you're probably saving some lives, and I'm not overstating that. And 20, 30 years from now, when you bump into somebody at a restaurant or at a social gathering, I guarantee you this is the stuff that people will be talking about. So thank you, really, from the bottom of our heart.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I mean, is it okay if we mention more briefly or I guess a little deeper about our mental health days we had in mind, or should we wait and if you wanted to do another day?
I would say go for it.
Okay, so Mr. Tarallo is a dean at the school, and he came up to me in Asia and he was like, oh, how far do you want to take your project? And we were like, well, as far as we can go, this is something near and dear to our hearts, so we just want to keep going with it. And he said before COVID hit, he was going to try and take action because he's on the Waltham School Committee.
Yeah.
That, this is big, but a group of kids in Oregon, they had some girl who unfortunately committed suicide, and they tried to pass a law in honor of her who, and it's about the mental health days in school. So many kids usually, when they wake up and they're like, oh, I can't do school today, I'm struggling mentally, they usually just call like the school and they're like, okay, I'm sick today, I can't come. But, you know, in some cases, kids are like really just struggling mentally and they can't make it to school. So we were trying to push, like, we want to maybe do a policy or something with the handbook committee. We don't really know where to start, but we just wanted to bring up the idea that mental health days could be excused or like noted, because, but here's like the fine line behind it. So we want them to be noted as on attendance. So say, for example, we notice that some kid is taking like 10 mental health days every week or like every 2 weeks, and they're like, and then guidance can notice, okay, we need to get this kid help. So I don't know if I explained that kind of well.
Yeah, so like she was saying, we kind of, Mr. Terrell presented this idea to us and we were just like, oh wow, this is so huge. And we kind of like were looking into it online, and that girl that it's called Chloe's Law out in Oregon. And there's a few other states, I know Virginia, New York, Florida, a few other states have done it, but obviously the state is something so much bigger and so much different, but we were just hoping maybe start it just in our local community. But the girl that they got this inspiration from, she was only 14 years old when this happened, and that's why I think it really hits home for somebody that young. But yeah, it's just basically if you can see somebody, and I know there's a side to it where it would be like, oh, well, some kids are going to take advantage of this and say like, oh, I'm just going to take a mental health day today. No, I don't think that. I think the benefits of it outweigh the somebody who would take advantage of it, because somebody who would really use this to really like just take a mental break for the day and just get themselves together, like would really appreciate it. And I think it would just be the school and the whole school district would just, it would bring a lot more attention to it, because if you see somebody struggling just on the attendance log, you would know, okay, like I should really reach out and like see what I can do to help them. And
because I feel like when it comes to admitting that you need help, kids are like, it's not really normalized. Everyone's scared to come forward and be like, I can't do today. I just got out of bed today and I'm struggling and I can't get up. I feel like that it's not normal to wake up and be like, not call the school and say, I have a stomach ache, I can't come in. In reality, you need to call and say, I'm struggling mentally, I really can't do it today. And it would be really good if we started a policy where mental health days are like excused as a sick day, so we can really help realize, oh, if this person's took 20 mental health days this week, well, you know, we have to reach out and maybe try and get them therapy or something.
yeah,
And there's like a lot of fine lines to it, and
yeah, there's so much more research and stuff that if this would even be taken forward that would need to be done, and a lot of conversation would have to be raised about it. But it was more just how a lot of people say we should treat our mental health just like our physical health. I think this would be a perfect way to do so, because I feel like obviously when you're struggling mentally, it's not the same thing as you struggling physically or you having or you're just sick or something. So
this policy, if it were to ever like come in our school systems, is important, because, you know, we need to say it's okay to like take a day to take care of yourself for mental health reasons, just like it would be okay to, you know, go take care of your broken ankle for a day or something. Mm-hmm. And other states are really moving in this direction as well. New York is, California, Utah, Oregon, they're all really working towards having mental health days and, you know, noting them on the attendance. So we really want to maybe move Massachusetts in the direction too, starting
in just Peabody,
starting
though.
here. Yeah, starting
we don't
here.
want to get into over our heads, and I know this is a very big thing to just like come out and say the first time we're here. It's probably very overwhelming with a lot of things on people's plates. We didn't really like expect to go too far into it, but as long as, even if it doesn't get us taken as far as we hope, as long as we can just get it into somebody to just consider it and to just think about it, I think that would just mean the most to us too, just to have someone, wow, like that's kind of a cool idea, like maybe I will consider it or just think about it or just put it into someone's mind to just have a thought about it, even if it can't go as far as we would hope. But
Yeah. Mr. Miko wanted to say something.
Sure. Through the chair to Amber and Asia, a wise man once said, ask, right? What's the worst that someone can say?
Yeah,
is no?
what's the worst you can say?
No, but this time someone's going to say yes.
Yes.
Okay? So I'd like to make a motion to, when we do talk about our policy next, let's include Amber and Asia in discussion, if they are here physically or you know, through your quality and standards. This is going to be a long motion, I'm sorry. Through your quality and standards subcommittee, maybe we can adopt some of these policies in our student handbook.
Well, so moved. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Arnottis. I will be honest, I believe our attendance policy has a, we were going to review it again this year. It had a sunset clause, so that's very timely. And it would be the perfect time to have that conversation and to be able to work something into that policy about that. And there is a lot of research on this, and definitely it's something we really should look at.
Yeah.
So we will be having you back.
Yay, thank you so much.
I want to tell you, the mayor has arrived. And I have to give up the microphone, but I have to check something out with him first. But 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. All right, here we go. Okay. He's the mayor. He gets to have all the fun. Hang on, everybody here is going to be very surprised.
You did great.
Well, I was just at a city council tax classification hearing, so I wasn't having that much fun. But I do apologize to get here late to the meeting, but as I said, I was at the city council tax classification hearing, which is required by our charter, and we just ended a short time ago at PB City Hall, and I'm so glad that I was able to get up here before Amber and Asia left, because I did want to speak just for a couple moments about both of them. I have gotten to know them both personally over the years, and these are two of our very best students that we've had in many, many years. Leaders in the classroom, leaders on the athletic fields. I think many of you know, but maybe you don't. Both of these two are outstanding student athletes. They're going on to play in college, and I'm sorry if it's already been spoken about. You already talked about it, Josh?
No.
Oh, all right. But I've got to see them play all different sports, basketball, soccer, lacrosse, and they're two excellent athletes and leaders on the field. Amber is going on to play at Bentley lacrosse, and also Asia is going to Merrimack for soccer. And they could have went to a wide variety of schools, and they chose two excellent ones. But I've got to know them personally. My daughter knows them both well. They're leaders, and I'm just very grateful to have them part of our school system. And not only because of your athletics and academics, but for efforts like this. This is very meaningful. A few years ago, we made a big investment in our community with help from Boston Children's and from Leahy in building a student-based health center at the high school. That was just built maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And the big issue at the time that all of us were working towards was mental health, because it was becoming more and more of an issue, just as you very eloquently spoke about. And I think now we even need to take further steps. And I think this will be a jumping off point, what you've brought forward to us today.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you both. And you have wonderful families, and you've just been true Tanners that we're all very proud of. So thank you.
Thank you.
I did want to, one outstanding piece of news that I wanted to speak about, Amber, that I just found out a short time ago. Beverly and I found out, and I get to be the one to say it, is...
I know, I was trying to get to it before you showed up.
I'm so glad I wanted to be the one
I
to
know,
speak
I'm glad
about
you
this.
could too, I
Because
really
both
am.
of these two, there's so many accolades. But I did want to speak, Amber, I was just notified of this a short time ago, but the Essex Media Group, which oversees the Daily Item in Lynn and the Peabody Weekly, has chosen Amber to be the Peabody Person of the Year for this year,
yeah.
which is pretty tremendous. They give out 9 awards, 1 for each city and town that the papers cover. This is the 4th year they've done it, and it's a pretty honored group from the city of Peabody. Tom Gould in 2017, Martha Holden 2018, and Deanne Healy in 2019. And now Amber will be a part of that group. But it's the question that was asked during the selection process was, did the person make a positive impact on their respective community? Anyone who knows Amber knows that she has done that and a whole lot more, even in the face of this unprecedented pandemic, and helping to raise awareness about the importance of mental health. Every year, the honorees range in age, gender, race, and occupation, but they all share a common theme, that being each of them has gone above and beyond to make their community a better place to live. So I just wanted to mention that as well, Amber. That's terrific.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mrs. Dunn, did you want to add?
I did, Mr. Mayor. The photographer was here earlier and was taking photographs of everyone and absolutely wants one of you with
I know, I
Amber
missed
and
it.
Asia, yeah.
I think she was.
And the thing was, those photographs are for an article about this project because it is such a wonderful project. The newspaper was really impressed by that. The other reason that they were taking photographs is for the award that's being given. And it was a dual purpose, and that was why there were so many pictures taken. But originally, the story about this project is what really drove this, and then the editorial board at the Essex Media Group discussed this and made the decision. So it really is a very big honor. The process is quite impressive, and knowing what was going to happen tonight was really, it was really hard to sit there and not say anything. It really was. So congratulations on both counts.
Thank you.
To both of you for your project, and then congratulations to Amber.
Thank you.
Thank you both again. So we did have a motion. Have we had a roll call vote on the motion?
We did not.
No, we
Okay.
didn't.
So we've had a motion by Mr.
I forgot what my
Amico.
motion was.
It was a good one.
It was a great one.
It was wonderful.
I need you to say it word for word again. I need you to say it word for word.
I'd like to make a motion to include Amber and Asia in discussions when we take up our student policy for attendance.
Attendance, yes,
Attendance.
the attendance policy.
Great. The motion was made by Mr. Amico, seconded by Mr. Arnottis. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Mr. Arnottis?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Ms. Griffin Dunn?
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you both. Great to have you here. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions or anything before we wrap up with Asia and Amber?
Could you just take, after we're done, could you take a 2-minute recess so we could get a photograph?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank
Good idea.
you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn.
Oh, we have
All
the
right, we'll take a
phone.
quick 2-minute break.
Alrighty.
Let's go get our shirts back.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Absolutely.
Just the two of you, and then we'll do one with Dr. Ward.
have to think about that.
I'm not saying it won't happen.
Also, that's what we're doing next, we're just going right through.
Thank you, everybody. You're welcome, thank you.
Good job.
I hope they lose the rest.
I'm so glad I could get
It's a long year for them.
Yeah.
Well, they're winning now. Halfway through.
Okay, I'd like to call the regular school committee meeting back to order. I'm going to turn it now back over to Dr. Vidala. He is in the process of his superintendent's report, so Dr. Vidala, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So now we'll move on to the rest of the items on the superintendent's report. Again, we begin with hope, and I think our previous presentation shows that there is some great hope in Peabody. Certainly, high expectations from our presenters today, from Amber and Asia, bringing optimism to us, really personalizing it to each kid, and really making sure people don't feel alone. And this definitely hits equity and access. So what a great presentation that we had today. So a couple items on the superintendent's report for tonight. We'll just do some school updates. I want to just review some of the extracurricular activities going on in our schools. We'll have a discussion on winter sports, an overview of our hybrid learning schedule, and then we have an update on the 2021 Mcas status. I'll provide an update on that. So just an overview, beginning with our community metrics. I did want to share sort of where we've been. So this table was shared with us. The last week, we were around a 58 case count with the state metrics. And so if you'll see this column here, the average daily case count over the past 3 reporting periods has really risen, and this hasn't been reported yet, but we're trending for a significant increase following the Thanksgiving holiday. So in the last month, we've seen a consistent increase of positive cases within our community. And although we've seen an increase in the cases in our schools, we still have not seen evidence of in-school transmission. So our safety metrics are working. The hybrid learning model with the every other day with the cohorts has definitely been working. And it is important to note that transportation, athletics, and our alternative childcare settings, they continue to be areas where we see the most close contacts. And that is important because it's people who are not testing positive also need to quarantine, and so these areas are where we're seeing some of the most close contacts. So I just wanted to provide a little overview with that, just to sort of frame the conversation of where we're going. There has been some discussion about making sure that even though we're in a hybrid model, we continue with our extracurricular activities. So at the high school, beginning on September 15th, clubs including DECA, the GSA, the PTSO, Culture Club, Peer Mediation, Stage 1, Jazz Band, and the Chorale were all able to begin right at the first day of school that first week, September 15th. The following month in October, they began the Air Force JROTC drill team, the Legacy Club, the school newspaper got underway, the yearbook began to meet, and the club Girls Who Code also began. Starting in November, our helping committees, so there's one at each class, senior class, junior class, sophomore class, and freshman class, and they plan different events and fundraising activities for class opportunities. And in this month, in December, we're looking for the Air Force JROTC Raiders program to begin, and our National Honor Society began last month, and they have an induction ceremony. They had their selections last month, but the induction ceremony is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. At the Higgins, right now we have 3 clubs currently up and running. The National Junior Honor Society, our yearbook is underway, and the Arts and Craft Club is also underway. We're continuing to look for more opportunities for Higgins to expand their after-school opportunities. I know one program that is really already in the discussion phase is the band, which they have a very active band. Right now they're doing it virtually and looking for some opportunities within the guidance to provide some in-person time, similar to what the high school is doing. In addition, the elementary schools are exploring opportunities for the spring. During our meetings with the schools, and we did our focus group with the kids, there's a lot of activity and a lot of interest in pursuing even a modified version of our grade 5 basketball league. So maybe pushing it out to the spring, but having some sort of opportunity. Kids are really interested in that. Consistently across all 8 elementary schools, we've received some questions about that. I'd just like people to know that it is something we are looking at. We did hear the kids as they talked about that, and that is something that we are interested in having some sort of activity in the spring once we're able to do so. So that sort of concludes that first item of extracurricular activities. I don't know if there was any discussion on that before we move to winter sports. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if anybody had
Questions or comments?
Okay. So, in terms of winter sports, did want to provide a quick overview of the school metrics from the Public Health Department, and then a very brief overview of the winter athletics protocols that Mr. Bua shared with the Athletics and Wellness Subcommittee, and then I believe Mr. Hockman would like to report out on our Athletics and Wellness Subcommittee, and then should probably engage in a discussion around winter sports as a whole committee. So this slide shows our total number of cases, including people who are remote in our schools. So overall, the blue bar is the number of positive cases that we've seen in school from the beginning of the year. So 20 staff cases and 105 student cases across all of our buildings. And has resulted in the orange bars are the number of individuals that needed to quarantine as a result of being a close contact to a positive individual. So 33 of our staff members and 295 of our students have had to quarantine. When students need to isolate or quarantine, they're able to engage in remote learning. When staff has to isolate or quarantine, we do try to allow them to engage in remote teaching to the extent possible. So they'll remote into the classroom, and at this time we are trying to do our best to make sure all of our classes are covered, and we are able to do that effectively, and students are still receiving high quality instruction from their teacher, whether they're in person or remote. This metric just shows the school cases and the contacts by week. So you'll notice that the blue and the orange cases are the cases that we've seen. We've seen a spike here around 7, 16, 30 is the cases that we've seen recently in our staff cases here in the last 3 weeks. And you'll also notice these numbers of close quarantine. This number 88 of kids that needed to quarantine or individuals that needed to quarantine, that did coincide with the height of at the athletic season for the fall sports. So we did see a blip in the numbers there. It was a big increase of the numbers of kids who maybe either were or were not participating in athletics or on transportation, but had to quarantine due to being in close contact. And so, so this is back to that same metric. And so at this time, I think that, Mr. Hockman, would you prefer that I present Mr. Bua's overall procedures? So just briefly, we had talked last week about the 4 sports that we're able to play: boys and girls hockey, boys and girls basketball, swimming and diving, and athletics. Gymnastics. Gymnastics. Thank you. And so Mr. Bua put together a program with the protocols around practices and the different modifications that each sport has. That packet is included in the school committee packet. It'll be another addendum to the athletic handbook that people will sign off. And basically each coach will have a set of parameters that students will follow and the athletes will follow in order to ensure that they're able to safely participate in sports. I know there was a discussion around the start date of sports, and I can turn it over to Mr. Hockman to get into the discussion, and then we can have a little bit more of a school committee discussion on that as well.
Actually, Dr. Vidala, can you put up the slide you had with the spike of 88?
Yes.
So before I get into the specifics of the subcommittee meeting and what Mr. Bua and Ms. Cameron talked about, I do want to initially acknowledge the tremendous amount of hard work that our health department, our athletic department, our principals, our teachers, our administrators, and our students have done to allow for the degree of academics and athletics to take place at our high school and throughout our school system. It's been really tremendous and remarkable to watch, and it's appreciated at our level, it's appreciated at the parents' level, it's appreciated at the students' level. So thank you at the outset. I asked Dr. Vidala to put this back up because throughout the fall, where Fall 1 sports were occurring, we see 1 week in particular where there's a tremendous amount of, I shouldn't say tremendous, a significantly higher amount of students that needed to quarantine as a result of athletic events. And I bring this out now before I start my report because it was really 1 week over the course of about 10 weeks in which athletics, or 12 weeks in which athletics occurred. So I really think that for the most part, Fall 1 athletics were very, very successful. That being said, we did convene this evening as an athletic and wellness subcommittee, and we took up 2 subjects. There's a third subject that's, I think, tangentially related to one of the subjects, but the 2 subjects were how we move forward with winter sports, and the second subject was parental access to spectate at winter sports. Both Mr. Bua and Ms. Cameron were present during the entire meeting. I can tell you, we could talk about parental access first. I believe Ms. Cameron would be opposed to parental access at school sporting events. Her concerns as a health agent are that the number of COVID cases that we're experiencing, and we see through this chart and some other data that Dr. Vidala shared tonight, and Ms. Cameron shared a tremendous amount of data with us too, is that we're going in the wrong direction. Not just Peabody, but the state. She did point out that Peabody is faring worse than the state on average when it comes to COVID numbers. And I thought that that was a salient point that was worthy of consideration. With that, the subcommittee, through discussion, vigorous debate, and a motion made, we unanimously approved or agreed upon, and it will be the recommendation of the subcommittee, that one parent of senior student athletes be permitted to appear as a spectator at sporting events that take place in Peabody Public School facilities. And we made that caveat because Mr. Boo informed us that gymnastics occurs at a private facility in Middleton. Swimming and diving occur at a private facility, the YMCA here in Peabody. And hockey, boys and girls hockey, occurs at the McVan rink, which is state-owned but operated by the city, and we can have some conversations about that perhaps at another date. But the motion or the recommendation was to have one parent of each senior participating in athletics at a Peabody Public School facility to be present. The second item that we took up, I think, was probably more difficult. And I'll start at the outset. Ms. Cameron's opinion and recommendation is that all winter sports be delayed at least 2 weeks until after the winter recess. The committee discussed this at length, and we went back and forth quite a bit, and there was a lot of debate on this subject. We talked, Dr. Vidala was able to join us at one point during this portion of the meeting. We talked about the fact that at present the scheduling for competition would not allow for any competition to take place until January 9th of 2021, just by the way the schedule has been formulated by various athletic directors in the conference and so forth. Mr. Bua informed us that the teams would need 2 weeks of practice prior to competing. I was concerned with a delay in the length that Ms. Cameron was suggesting would impact the ability for our student athletes to begin participating in competition. The season for winter sports looks like it's going to be very brief. It would be from January 9th until about the third week in February, it looks like. So any delay in the beginning of competition would severely impact the number of events that our student athletes would be able to participate in. And it was for those reasons, and the protocols that Dr. Vidala just talked about, that Mr. Brewer informed us of, that are being taken place at the high school facilities, essentially, that are in place, that really have, and as we see this chart, with the exception of 1 week and one event, really worked for us. We realize that there's a change, a dramatic change in outdoor athletics to indoor athletics. We talked about ventilation, we talked about sanitization and things along those lines. And it was the recommendation of the subcommittee on a 2-to-1 vote to begin winter sports on December 14th, which was the date we were originally told, the earliest date we were originally told that they were able to begin. And the tangential issue, I think, is we talked about practices for non-season sports. And we talked about that briefly at the subcommittee, but I believe that they would be able to begin on December 14 or shortly thereafter as well. I think Mr. Brewer mentioned that he wanted to get winter sports up and running before non-seasonal sports would be able to practice, but that seemed like it would be something that would be rolled out shortly thereafter. But I think I got the impression that it would be before winter recess. So that's the report. With that, at this time, I can make motions or we can have discussion at the pleasure of the chair.
Should I jump in first?
Oh,
So I'd just like to provide just a little context as well before a discussion, if that is allowed. So one of the big things that we've been discussing internally is our ability to remain in a hybrid model. Our ability to remain in a hybrid model directly affects our ability to participate in athletics. And so one of the big things is in-person learning is extremely important for us to be able to participate. Our numbers are going up, so we do want to make sure that we're very close with our public health department. We don't want to jeopardize, if we have to go remote, if our numbers continue to go up and we get to the point where we need to go fully remote, athletics becomes off the table. And so we want to make sure that we're very cautious and very thoughtful about how we roll out the beginning of the season and take the steps that we need to as our numbers continue to increase. As Mr. Hockman indicated, the first athletic contest for the winter is currently scheduled for January 9th. Starting 2 weeks prior to that would be December 30th, would allow the kids to participate in the first event on the 9th. The recommendation from the Public Health Department was to start on the 6th, which would push the start date out to January 20th. So that's a little bit of a background on where we're at. We definitely value sports. We want the students to be able to participate in sports, and we understand that it is contingent upon remaining in our hybrid model. We've done quite a bit of work. My nervousness of continued cases and continued close contacts is our ability to safely run the schools with a number of staff members that may need to quarantine or be out. We may not have enough adults in the building to do so. Right now, we currently are doing an unbelievable job. I really give a lot of credit to our educators and our custodians and our nurses for all the work that they're doing in our partnerships in the community. So we want to try to find a way where we can find some middle ground to be able to have our kids have a winter season and of course, most importantly, remain in our hybrid model. We're one of the very few schools that started on September 16th and that has had an uninterrupted hybrid program since the beginning of school. So I really want to give a lot of credit to all the people that have made that possible and really try to work collaboratively to find a way to make sports happen and also to honor our in-person hybrid model. So I know, Mr. Mayor, you had a few words, and I know the committee wants to speak on this as well.
No, I'm thinking, though, Mr. Stockman, do you want to make a motion, and then we'll open it up for discussion?
Sure. And well said, Dr. Vidala. Our primary concern is academics, and it has to be academics. And I just want to, and for the discussion that's going to ensue, One of my concerns with starting on the 14th was to have, at least have tryouts, so the teams could be set. You know, and we went back and forth a little bit after you suggested that perhaps we hold off until the 30th or so to start. You know, I'm not as concerned with practices starting around the 30th, so long as it doesn't interrupt the beginning of competition. But I think the teams need that full period of time to practice and not be bogged down with tryouts and, you know, decisions by coaches and getting started. So I'm going to make a motion that we start winter sports on December 14th, 2020. I'm willing to be pushed and compromise if that's the will of the committee, but I at least want to start with what I think is, I think best for student athletes, best for the athletic programs to start out, and that's to give them adequate time. The practices are going to be difficult to begin with. Mr. Bua talked about teams practicing in segments as opposed to full teams with certain, trying to keep groups down to 10, which makes it difficult on coaching staffs and student athletes. So I'll start by making a motion that we begin winter athletics on December 14th.
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion by Mr. Hockman, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. Okay, let's open it up for discussion. Mrs. Dunn, and then I'll go to Mr. Miko.
Thank you. Actually, it's just a question. I'm trying to follow, you know, the conversation with those numbers in mind. When they're listed there as quarantine, is that a combined student and staff who are quarantined on the gray?
So that's new quarantines. That, within that week, 88 individuals were new quarantines, staff and students. Then the following week, there were 29. So they're new quarantines. So in the 3-week period from the 11th to the 31st of Halloween, you know, we had well over 100.
Okay. And I'm actually up to the current, say the last 3 weeks there.
Yes, so what you see is, you see an increase in cases, so 7 students and 4 staff members, 16 students and 5 staff members, 30 students and 5 staff members. An increase in cases, but you see that there's a decrease in the close contacts, and that can be attributed to the Thanksgiving recess, where we didn't have as many students in the buildings, so that helped. We didn't have sports going on at that time, so we are seeing a decrease in close contacts because of kids weren't necessarily in the building. We're also seeing that a number of our positive cases are coming from household contact of individuals that were already at home on quarantine and then test positive, so there aren't any close contacts. And so that's the least impactful to our schools, is when that happens. Someone who's already on quarantine tests positive, and then we don't have any close contacts.
Okay. So is it safe to say that last week there were 17 people in the related to the schools? There were 17 people that were quarantined. It's not 17 plus, you know, 31 from the following week, or is it 17 new ones?
17 new ones. So this is a 14-day quarantine, and then there's some changes that it could be 10 days or now 7 based on the new metrics. But this is 17 new quarantines that needed to start during the week of the 29th through December 14th. So these each are unique cases that begin at some point during that week and continue for the duration of the quarantine period.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Miko?
Great, thank you, through the chair of the committee. During our subcommittee, I voted against it because my thought process was I'd like to have a compromise in a sense that for many of these seniors, this is it. This is their last hurrah. Many of them won't be playing college athletics because the numbers usually dictate that. A small percentage of seniors or athletes end up playing college sports. But I guess my dilemma here is the mental health issue. And after hearing that great presentation, I think I'll change my vote. And during this session, I will be voting yes, because I do think the importance of these student athletes getting out there, and they've done their job in the classroom. Schools have been open. I just hope that we can continue with this trend and hopefully get through the season. But my concern is that numbers continue to go up and we may have to shut it down. And if we do shut it down, I don't see it opening back up until the spring, and that can be very concerning to me. So I'm torn. You know, I voted no earlier. I think I'm gonna vote yes because of the great presentation about mental health, and I really do think, from a former student athlete's point of view, sports are just so more important at this point to some of these kids because they don't have any other outlets. They go to school, they come home, they do work, they need that outlet. And so I'll be voting yes.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. Mr. Olympio?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I will also be supporting this motion to start on the 14th. I just feel like we do have some data, we do have a track record in this district, in this city, that God bless the staff and the administration and the students. We all seem to be doing our job, keeping things relatively in check. We all stuck our neck out on the line 3 months ago about voting on the hybrid, and I think at this point things have worked out. A lot of, as Mr. Miko said, a lot of these students, this was their last hurrah, and I feel like there's a part of me, I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like let them get started sooner than later, because I do have a pit in my stomach that come January, come middle of, it might be out of our hands at the state level. And I feel like the more time that the students can be together and feel some sense of normalcy, I think that's a win for everybody. And I do have confidence that our students, our staff, our coaches, our parents are going to do the right things and take the precautions and minimize the risk. So that's why I'll be in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. Yeah, during the subcommittee meeting, I was in favor of moving forward with our regular date of December 14th. And some of the reasons why involve almost the same reasons like Mr. Olympio said when we were deciding whether or not to go, fully remote at the beginning of the year or hybrid. Some of the rationale was like, let's just go, get while the getting's good. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. So while we're here, let's do it. Some of the things that I want to point out, first of all, today, no other cities have pushed their start date. So this could affect their schedule too. So we push our start date. This could affect rearranging an entire schedule that may not accommodate as many games, as few as we already have. We don't have as many. We could lose some of them. And then from my personal perspective, these sports, basketball, hockey, gymnastics, swimming, for the most part, this isn't the first time these kids are going to be doing this sport this year. Most of them find other teams to play on. They like hockey sometimes is a year-round sport for a kid. So these are already happening, and they're successful. And now they've had practice at how things are running. They're not getting dressed in locker rooms. They're getting dressed out in the parking lot. They're distancing. They're wearing masks. For the most part, these kids are already familiar with the protocols of how they're going to have to run their winter school sports. So, I have confidence, yet again, just like I had in the students before. The coaches, they all know. They're aware of how these things are run. I think we can do it. I think we can be successful. I am in full favor of let's just keep going. Let's just keep going ahead, and I have confidence in our athletes. So I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Mrs. Dunn?
Oh, Mr. Arnott beat me to it.
Oh, you can go if you want.
Oh, okay. I have another question. Now, the suggestion is to allow the students, December 14th is next Monday. Will the teams be selected? Tryouts are next week. Will the teams be formed next week? Is that how it works, or do they have to wait until January for that?
Typically, the teams are selected after 2 or 3 days of tryouts,
Okay.
typically.
Okay. Because even if they can't play, I would still like them to know they made it on a team. If it's just one more week, then I can support it. I'm hopeful that those numbers won't go up too high, and at least let them try out. Is that for both seasons, or is it winter and fall too that are next week?
Just winter next week.
Just
So
winter.
those are just the 4 sports. Basketball, hockey, diving, swimming, and gymnastics.
Okay, and then fall two, that would be,
Fall 2 starts February 22nd. However, Mr. Boer is working on a schedule to allow some of those Fall 2 sports to have some workout time, some practice time, things of that nature.
okay. But the winter sports could at least have their tryouts next week, and. I
They
mean-
could, and I think that we've always, back since March, have followed the direction of our public health department. So this is a deviation from that, and I think that's really where the discussion has changed for us. You know, we have always followed the public health department, and, you know, our public health director has come out and said, you know, our numbers are going to almost double next week. Our numbers are really high, and, you know, pushing this out so we have more information is what the recommendation of the public health department is. The compromise was to wait until our next school committee meeting to make a final decision. You know, I mean, I think we will follow whatever the committee says. I just want to make sure that we're doing what's right by the kids and that we can stay in school, because if we end up shutting down, we may lose our season completely. So it's just, I've always hung my hat on the fact that we follow the direction of the public health department. And so if this is a deviation from that, we will really be, you know, locking down our protocols and making sure that we do everything we can to be safe.
Yeah. It's, the timing is really, really sad. And there's no chance to have tryouts this week?
We're not allowed to start until December 14th.
Oh.
And so that's the earliest we could start. The recommendation was to push it out just to let the Thanksgiving holiday spike hopefully subside just a little bit. But again, you know, I think that we just want to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep the kids safe. We want the kids to play, and I think that's the biggest thing, is how do we figure out a way to get them to play and to stay in school, and to make sure that we're following the guidance and not having an impact on the community.
I know it really is a tough decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Arnottis?
Thank you. Well, it does seem, I mean, I can count, so I know, you know, where the vote's gonna go here, but it does seem like there's a bit of a gamble going on, a little bit, you know, if we don't.
I love that.
You all know how I am, I'm honest at this point. So, you know, with this, I don't think 2 weeks would be harmful if we waited till December 30th. I will always trust our public health director. You know, I hate the fact that we make public health decisions here more than we probably ever had when we're not public health officials, but, you know, I think that's the world we're living in now. I do worry about, you know, basically what you're saying, in one sense, the logistics of it, what we're gonna do if everyone has to start quarantining, you know, from a staff perspective as well, how we're gonna run our buildings, but I do worry about us ruining the season because we decided to, you know, go a few weeks earlier than we necessarily had to, but it does sound like, just from what I'm understanding, no other district has changed. Is everyone starting their practices on December 14th? Is that what we know of right now?
Yes, as far as I'm aware, all are, except for Lynn. Lynn has not moving forward with winter sports. And, but all others in our conference are moving forward. I expect there to be continuous discussion on this, but as of right now, all are moving forward with December 14th.
Okay. Well, like I said, I don't like to go against the health director at all, but it does sound like we're in a sense moving as a group of communities right now with this, you know, in this action. So I don't have much more to say on this right now. I think in 2 weeks, you know, we'll have to reevaluate things, of course. If the numbers do double, you know, who knows? I do worry about us staying open at this point. You know, you've been clear Public health has been clear, but I know there is an appetite to get our students to compete, and, I voted for outdoor sports. I think it's incredibly important, as Mr. Mcas said, mental health and physical health, hand in hand as far as I'm concerned as well. But I do hope we're cognizant of the fact that we could be risking it right now going forward. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Arnottis.
Thank you.
Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to all of you again. I mean, the level of debate that takes place at these meetings, this has been an incredibly difficult year for all of us on a lot of different levels, and the manner in which you guys continue to conduct business here in the school committee for the Peabody Public School Department is commendable. So thank you for that. We disagree on things at times. It's not easy making a motion that is contrary to the recommendation of a health agent who I and we have a tremendous amount of respect for, and we know, I know, that her heart and her mind is always in the right place. So it's not an easy motion to make. I will say, to Mr. Miko's point about the mental health aspect of sports, that was a big factor in my decision to go forward with this motion. And to Mr. Arnottis' point, we do get a redo of sorts. We do meet on the 22nd of December, and we get to reevaluate what the city looks like, what the school district looks like. We get a small window to start, the 14th through the 22nd, if you will, and like everything we're doing this year, it's modifiable. If we think we need to pull back and take a week off, maybe that's what we talk about in 2 weeks, but one step at a time. And I think the first step is to get it off the ground, kind of like what we did with the school year. We disagreed on how that looked, but as a committee, we went forward with getting the school year off the ground in a hybrid fashion. And I think those of us that voted in favor of that, we would be dishonest if we didn't say we expected some reevaluation of that at some point, and perhaps a change in how we treated academics. So, this will get treated the same way. So I appreciate the debate. I do want to say as my final comment, I appreciate the mayor for making me the chair of this subcommittee. I thought it'd be easy, light duty for me this year. So thank you for the assignment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Mrs. Dunn?
It's a question a bit off topic, but it is related. At what point will we be, what is the process for determining whether we will go fully remote? The numbers, how will that happen? Is that going to be something that the Board of Health, that Sharon Cameron will speak with Dr. Vidala about the overall numbers in the city? And then how long will it take before we know if we will stay in the hybrid model or go fully remote? If the numbers are rising as quickly as, I don't mean to say if they are, the numbers are rising quickly. By next week, things could be in a much worse category. We meet on the 22nd, but prior to that, what would be the time frame needed to make a determination of going fully remote?
So I do have in my, the rest of the presentation, when we talk about the hybrid learning schedule, I have a little bit of information there as well. We have really maintained that we will stay in our hybrid model until we have evidence of widespread in-school transmission. So we have not seen that yet. The only other thing that could prevent us from staying in our hybrid model is the amount of staff members that are able to come to school. So if we don't have the adults in the buildings to watch the classes, right now we do have some ability to remote teachers in if they have to quarantine, and we've done a really good job of that, so the kids are still getting that high-quality instruction. If we get to the point where the number of quarantines are so widespread that we can't have the adults in the building, we will have to go full remote. If we do go full remote, we lose sports.
Okay. And it would be
I don't anticipate us changing from the hybrid model between now and the holidays. It's returning in January and beyond, where the number of contacts, there's a number of local communities that are looking to close down from December 18th till January 11th. I know 2 of our neighboring communities will not be in school the week of January 4th through January 9th. They're going full remote. So that has been announced in 2 communities, Salem and Beverly. And so, there are people who are taking steps around their in-person learning, to make sure they do that. We have not deviated from our hybrid model, and frankly, I don't want to. I think our in-person learning is really the bedrock of the educational experience for our kids. And, I really want to stay committed to keeping our kids in school as long as we can in person when we can safely do so.
Thank you.
And I want sports. I want sports this winter. I just want to make sure that we're in school so we can play them.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Arnottis?
Thank you. Just very quickly, I am inclined, and thank you for your comments, Mr. Hoffman. I'm inclined to vote for this, knowing that we have another meeting on the 22nd, and then you have the holiday break. That might buy us some time and let us see what the numbers look like then. But it does weigh on me that this could end up being some form of a triggering event that costs us in-person learning as a whole. So that's forefront of my mind right now. It's a tough decision. These have all been, difficult decisions, and I don't think, being right or wrong is a fluid thing at this point, because we really don't know what tomorrow looks like. So, I think we've said it now for 4 months, but we do the best we can here, and, we just work it until we get through it, so.
Thank you, Mr. Arnottis. Okay, we have the motion on the floor. Everybody knows the motion. Roll call vote, please.
Oh, sorry, could you,
Oh, sorry, Mrs. Dunn.
I know we can't read it back, but could someone,
Yeah,
Mr. Hockman?
it's
Trans-
simply to allow winter sports to begin on December 14th.
okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Mr. Arnottis?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hockman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Ms. Griffin Dunn?
Yes.
The second matter that we took up at the subcommittee is now relevant and germane, was to allow one parent or guardian of a senior student athlete to attend sporting events that occurred on Peabody Public School or within Peabody Public School facilities. So I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, heard the motion by Mr. Hockman, seconded by Mrs. Carpenter. Any discussion, Mrs. Dunn?
Is that to allow parents to attend every game, or is that for that traditional senior night or senior game?
So all games?
It's all home games. The conference still has a policy that we would only allow Peabody parents to attend home games.
Home games.
So it'd be for all home games at Peabody Public School facilities.
If I could, I'll go around and,
Sure, thank you.
Mr. Amico?
Mayor, through the chair, and I actually made that motion in our subcommittee, and the reason why I did so was, I struggled with the fact, again, that, for these seniors, this is their last chance, and for their parents, this is their last chance. These are kids and parents who have been working so hard over the years, 13, 15 years worth of sports, driving all over the state and everywhere else to watch their kids play and really be a part of, it's part of their family, in a sense. I know sports was in my family and is now. So I just wanted to make a compromise in a sense that let's do it for the seniors and the parents. And I took a basketball team, hypothetically. You may have 3 or 4 seniors on the team, maybe 5. If you can spread those 5 parents out in a field house, I think we could do that safely. We're moving 700, 800 students in a building on a daily basis. I think we could have, one parent there, in 4 or 5 different corners, and allowing them to watch their kids play for their last senior year. Now, freshmen, sophomore, and junior parents, they'd have to watch on Peabody Access Television, because they'll have that opportunity next year and the years in the, in the future. But I just thought it was so important for parents of seniors to be there. So that's why I made the motion.
No, that's a good point, Mr. Miko. I was thinking, though, and I would ask the committee if we could maybe hold this maybe to the next meeting, because the other discussion and vote we took was timely because it's the 14th. This one, we got a little bit of time before the games and events take place. So I was just thinking, Mr. Miko, could we maybe hold this until, our next meeting on the 22nd, and maybe, again, where we want to see how things unfold here over the couple weeks ahead. But I think this is an important one, and your thought is very good. But I'm just thinking maybe we can hold that one and maybe make a vote a little later.
Sure. Where there are no games scheduled until January anyhow,
Yeah.
so it makes sense. We can take this up on the 22nd.
That's what I was thinking.
All right, sure, thank you.
Okay. Okay, all set with the report, Mr. Hockman?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, great. So I'll turn it back to you, Dr. Vidala.
Great. I have just two more things on the superintendent's report. One is just a brief discussion about the hybrid learning schedule, which is relevant to what we had just discussed. This is a slide that we saw earlier of our increasing case count. And typically, I don't like to compare districts, and I've tried to do my best not to do so. We have had a number of questions about what neighboring districts are doing. So I compiled a list of the 10 close districts that are either in close proximity to us or around the same size. And so of these districts, Cambridge, Ringen, Latin, Haverhill, and Woburn are comparative to our high school. They're part of that DART program that Mr. Magno talked about. So the first column, we have our case count and of our neighboring or districts around the same size or around the same metrics. So if we are looking at the first column and we're at 58.5 cases per 100,000 people last week, that puts us in the red. There are a number of districts that are very similar to us or nearby. Beverly, Cambridge, and Salem have numbers that are less than us and are in the yellow currently. And then Chelsea, Everett, Haverhill, Revere, Saugus, and Woburn have numbers either slightly above or slightly below us, but they also happen to be in the red. We also looked at the positivity rate. Beverly and Cambridge would be in the yellow along with Salem. And then the positivity rate of the other communities are either at or above where we're at. And I think what's indicative of this is really the learning model. So Beverly is currently in a hybrid model. They are going remote from December 18th through January 11th, so that is a pause in their in-person learning. Cambridge, Chelsea, Everett, Haverhill are all fully remote right now. We remain in our hybrid model, and we have been consistent. Revere remains remote. Salem is in their hybrid. They have limited grades. They have some of their elementary grades in. They have one middle school grade and just 9th grade at their high school. They are also looking to go full remote from January 4th through the 11th in that following week. Saugus is currently full remote through the new year. They announced that a little while ago. And Woburn is a unique town in that we're very similar to Woburn, not just that we are both the Tanners, but they're one of the few school districts that has started out in a hybrid program and has continued in their hybrid program. I've talked to the superintendent a number of times. Our communities seem to be mirroring each other with our numbers, and they've been committed to their hybrid program. They still are, and so have we. So there's districts here that have not had an in-person learning day since March 12th. And so I think it's really indicative of where we're at and just a credit to the work that we're doing and to our community and the support that we've gotten. So I don't like to compare districts. I try to avoid that. We have gotten a lot of questions around that. And given where our numbers are, we are comparing to more densely populated cities. However, it is important to know that we are in school and we remain in school. So I just wanted to sort of go through some of the considerations, and this is, Mrs. Dunn, this is what you were asking about changing models or adjusting schedules. And so one thing that we said from the very beginning, and we were in the green in the fall at one time, we went red and then we came back to green and then yellow. So we've been a little bit, in each of the metrics, we've been in at least a couple weeks in each area. But one thing that we've maintained is that having consistency really allows for growth and improvement. And having a consistent model since September 16th has allowed our teachers and our students to adjust to the model, to really grow and develop and to provide that consistency over time. And I think that, we've done a really good job with teaching and learning. Our kids are, I'm really excited to show that data in January of where our kids go compared to what we saw in the school improvement plans, initial data, to where we're coming from. So I think we can continue to improve, and we want to take steps to improve. We continue to try to bring in more of our selected populations, or our cohort C kids. But I think that, we continue to try to make improvements and make small adjustments. And we always want to make sure that we bring to light the safety protocols, and following the safety protocols has really allowed us to stay in this hybrid model. The 6-foot distancing, the mask wearing, people staying home when they're sick, and really the hand washing and the hygiene have really been effective. So any adjustments to our schedules must account for the impact for all students, including those who are remote. And we've seen a number of kids that have continued to go fully remote, and we want to make sure that we're able to provide them with a high-quality education as well. And as we see our numbers increase, we are welcome. If people want to opt out, they have that option. And I think that, if people want to opt out, we want to be able to continue to provide them with that education, and we do have that option. And I think that it is relevant to the previous conversation that if people are starting to feel uncomfortable, they can reach out to the building principal, and we will make accommodations for them to go fully remote if that is what works best for their family. And I think that having this model that we currently employ really gives us that opportunity. So I think, we're still heading in the right direction and trying to meet the needs of all of our students. And to the point of, if we need to go full remote, what would it take? Again, really focusing on evidence of in-school transmission. So despite our numbers going up in the community, we want to remain really consistent with our dedication to this hybrid model, because even if the community transmission is going up, we know that the safest place for our kids might be in school. Where we are having masks, and we have 6-foot distancing, we have those effective safety protocols. So until we see evidence of effective transmission, or maybe a governor's state of emergency, we will remain committed to this hybrid model. The one thing that we had talked about previously as well is staff quarantines, and the ability to safely operate our in-person learning could impact that. So that is something that we are really working on. We're struggling to find people as substitute teachers, but many of the protocols that we have in our current model really allows us to provide that coverage within the school day to make sure kids stay consistent. The only thing that I will add that we haven't necessarily discussed is changes in working conditions must be collectively bargained. So if we did want to pivot to some sort of either more aggressive model or a full hybrid, a full remote model, we would need to collectively bargain that. So, we've started initial discussions of what-if scenarios with the union to make sure that we're not surprised by anything, but just flipping a switch and adding another day of school. We've talked about bringing our kindergarten kids in maybe on Wednesdays, or our pre-K kids in on Wednesdays, or maybe some of our special programs in 5 days a week as opposed to 4. That would need to be bargained, and those are discussions that we are trying to engage in. But it's not just let's decide to do something and we can do it tomorrow. It's really a thoughtful process. So that is one thing that we haven't talked about, but any change in working conditions would need to be bargained. So I will pause there. I know that there may be some questions on our hybrid schedule or our hybrid learning model, and then I just have one last update before I conclude the superintendent's report on the Mcas status for 2021. But I did want to provide an opportunity for the committee to ask questions about our hybrid model.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Vidala. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. Through the chair, Dr. Vidala, thank you for this. At the last meeting, I did ask you for updates on the extracurricular clubs, those type of things, and I'm really happy to see that, some of the things are going on, because, again, mental health, these are the things that help. One of the other questions that I did ask you about to be prepared to discuss tonight was the hybrid learning schedule, and I can't remember if I said it or not, but this was in regards to the high school schedule. So one of the biggest pieces of communication that I receive is from high school parents who ask me, why are they only going for half a day? My response, although I feel less confident about my response, is because it was explained to me that should the students remain in the building for the full day, we wouldn't be able to provide all of the classes to them. So what I'm asking you is, can you please clarify why they're not in the building for the full day? And then we'll go from there.
Yes, absolutely, thank you. So our current model has the kids come in for 4 periods in the morning and then work asynchronously when they go home. It also allows us to provide the remote students with that direct instruction from their teacher. So the kids in the high school don't have an at-home hybrid day without a teacher like our K-8 kids do. So they have their 4 classes in the morning, and then on their day at home, they engage remotely in the afternoon. And so what this learning model has done for the high school, because of all the transitions and the number of staff that we have in the building and working remotely, we would not be able to provide them with 7 consecutive classes and a lunch with the rotation as it goes. So we do the grab-and-go lunch, and then we're able to engage the kids remotely. So for example, at the middle school level, there is a cluster at each grade level that is fully remote. But because the high school kids have such a varied schedule, we can't just create a cluster of remote kids. So the teachers need to teach both in-person and remote students. And so by being able to do that, they teach a group in the morning that then works in person, and they work asynchronously when they get home, and then the group in the afternoon is remotely. If kids are fully remote, they engage in that afternoon block with the periods of 35 minutes long each day. And so they get an in-person teacher every single day, and they're able to engage with them remotely. So what we've seen is that when we started this model, there were about 380 high school students that were engaging remotely, and now there's over 500. So there's been a number of kids that have switched to that remote model, and we're able to accommodate that seamlessly because all of the teachers teach all of the kids. And if we didn't have this model, we would not be able to give the same type of education to the remote kids as we are to the in-person kids. So this is the best model to meet the needs of all the kids at the high school, and they get to see their teacher every day, unlike our K-8 kids who only see their teacher face-to-face twice a week and then remotely on the Wednesday. So the high school kids do get to see their teacher every single day.
Okay. I can't repeat that explanation though, so.
So we do have the presentation is posted on our website, but I'll do my best to put it in writing, and and I'm happy to engage with any parents that have questions about that, because I know this is not the ideal situation. I'd love to have all the kids in, but this is what meets the needs of all of our kids right now, and it gives the best in-person education and face-to-face education with that high-quality teacher. We talked about if you're taking AP Calculus or any AP class, there's usually only one section. And so that teacher needs to teach both in-person and remote kids. And this schedule does allow for kids to have access to all of those college-level classes that are going to prepare them for the next level.
Okay, you explained it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess just replaying that.
It's a good thing this is being recorded.
Yeah.
Email it out, that's all.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Mrs. Dunn?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, Mrs. Carpenter's question is one that I was really interested in the answer to, because that is one of the biggest areas that people are reaching out about. They're very concerned that, that their student is only in class for a short amount of time, or only in school a short amount of time. And it is, I'll be honest, it's very difficult to understand it. And even with the explanation, it's still really confusing. My question, and I just want to thank you for the information, but to let you know, it really and truly is very, very confusing, and I can understand why people are concerned. I am as well. My question was about the second big number of things people are reaching out to me about is the quarantines, and specifically about staff quarantining. And when people reach out to us, we get the report of how many positive cases are in a school. And I can understand that, and we get the phone calls too. But the exponential quarantining is what is concerning people, because they're seeing or hearing of situations where people are not in school. And so that's one of the things that, as you talk about our numbers going up, why I was asking about the quarantine, the number itself, because it's really very concerning to people about those situations, because they're wondering, will we have enough people to cover the classes, to, clean the schools, to, cook the meals? And it seems to be getting more and more as far as, exposure and quarantining, and they're expressing a lot of concern about that. And I know that comes into play with decisions about how to run our schools. And I know that will come in as a part of the decision. But if there was any way to, I'm really glad you showed us this chart, because it was not as alarming as what I would think, based on the calls and the information that people are calling with. If that could go on our website, or if we could do something with that, it may help people understand what the situation is, because people are really very frightened, and I can see a huge increase in the concern and fear just in the past couple of weeks. It's really getting very, very, very frightening out there.
I appreciate that, and I think that, and thank you for bringing it up. And I think one thing that isn't necessarily in the numbers when you look at from the district level is the impact on a small school when 5 people need to be out. So 5 people doesn't seem like a big number in a district that has, close to 500 teachers and 6,000 students. But for a small elementary school, 5 teachers is a lot. Yeah. And I think that's what they feel, and they feel that. And, we also see people need to quarantine for a number of reasons. And, we may see the numbers of quarantines that were reported tonight were based on positive cases in our community. There may be other people who need to quarantine based on someone who's outside of the school community, but inside our community, or someone who lives in another town who's a close contact to a family member or came into contact with someone from another town. They wouldn't be part of our data set, but they might be on the absent list. And so we see that this is impacting many communities, and we just want to make sure that our kids are safe when they're in school. And right now, our schools are doing an amazing job of coverage. The hybrid model is helping, and the every other day is helping because it spreads out the amount of time that they're in, so there's not as many close contacts. And right now we are covering all the classes and doing as good of a job as I think is humanly possible. I think as we look at other learning models, there's no high school our size that's in person. They're just fully remote. And for us to be still in a hybrid for as long as we have without interruption is really impressive. And if I know people want to see our kids in more, and I do too, if there's a school that's doing better than us, I will reach out to that superintendent, and Mr. Magno will reach out to that school principal, and we'll find out. We'll find out who's doing it better, and we'll try to model them. We have a number of communities near us that want to model our high school schedule because it allows the in and out of the in-person and the hybrid. So we'll continue to work to try to improve it. But I do think we want to give credit to the work of people who have kept us in as long as we have consistently. And I think that's really the key for us, is the consistency.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Miko?
Great, thank you. Through the chair. And to Ms. Carpenter's point about getting all those phone calls and emails, I'm getting them as well. And one of the things that I looked at is one of our strengths at PB Veterans Memorial High School is the amount of programs and AP classes and course offerings that we offer. And I don't think we cut any, if any, at the beginning of the year. So all these kids are allowed to take those course offerings. And I think the other thing that we would have to do if we really wanted more in-person or in-student time is we'd have to hire a lot more teachers. And I don't think we're prepared to cut course offerings and programs and hire a lot more teachers. So I think that's part of the reasoning there. And to Dr. Vidala's point, there isn't another school district that's doing what we're doing, not a public school district our size. We've been saying this since September and October, and we're rallying for, 12, 13 straight weeks. So, yeah, we would all like to see our kids in school more, but right now, I think we need to celebrate what we're doing. And, getting those kids in buildings 2 or 3 days a week, that's a big deal, because a lot of districts our size, kids are sitting in their rooms 7 days a week, 5 days a week doing schoolwork, and that's not a way to learn or to teach. I'm an example. I don't enjoy doing that, trust me. I'd rather have kids in front of me even if it were 2 days a week. So I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. All right, anybody else on this topic? Go back to you, Dr. Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The last topic is a 2021 Mcas status update. So this was something that was brought to us towards the end of the last meeting as something to put on the agenda for this meeting. And, I was prepared to talk about how the state should postpone MCAS, and then the state postponed MCAS for grade 11 at least. So originally, our high school students were going to engage, our current junior class did not take MCAS last spring. So there was going to be an opportunity during January and February to take the ELA and math test. And so that has been postponed by the state. Grade 11 will no longer participate in that testing window. And I think that we are cautiously optimistic that there may be a federal waiver. The grade 12 kids, there's a small cohort of kids that have not passed MCAS yet, and we want to give them an opportunity to earn that competency determination. So they will remain eligible to take it. So we're just going to have a small group of kids that take the MCAS retake so they can graduate, and it'll just be 12th graders. So that will happen in January and February. And then the spring MCAS for grades 3 through 10 are still under discussion. Access testing, which is we talked a little bit about this last week, it's language acquisition testing for our English language learners. That will still go on. Dr. Lord and the ELL team met today, and they were talking about how they can do this. The window's going to open on January 7th, but it will continue through May 20th, so we have plenty of time to get that done. Our plan is to do it early and make sure that we do it while we're in school, and so we plan on doing that. Now, each year, the Higgins Middle School ends up being asked to participate in NAEP testing, and that's the National Assessment for Educational Progress, and that's a national test that is done. And because of the size of the Higgins, there's not many middle schools this size, they always get asked, so they were asked to do that again this year. And NAEP has postponed their 2021 testing, and the comment that they made, and this is a national test, said, challenges such as variable instructional models, health and safety concerns, and restrictions on access to schools are expected to reduce NAEP's ability to validly, reliably, and safely collect and report NAEP data in 2021. So if our national assessment is not going to be valid or reliable, and we're not able to safely collect data, I think we really need to take a look at the state level of why would we be doing an MCAS exam for kids tied to graduation. And so this is a discussion that the committee could certainly have, but I would be in favor of sending a letter to the commissioner, urging the commissioner to explore a federal waiver on MCAS this year. I am all for data, and I think our school improvement plans have shown that. We have local data, and we will work to improve our students, but publicly comparing districts this year and tying it to graduation, to me, is really not in the best interest of students. So I would be happy to craft a letter urging the commissioner to explore a federal waiver on MCAS for the spring, if that would be the will of the committee.
I'd like to follow the recommendation of the superintendent.
Yeah,
Second.
that was quick. Very well said, Dr. Vidala. And I know we did receive a communication from Matt Smith and some others about this very topic, and I saw this on the agenda, so I thought we would get into this topic. And I wanted to make sure that we had a vote, certainly if it was the will of the council. So Dr. Vidala said it very well. So I'll go to you in a moment, Mr. Miko. There was a motion by Mrs. Carpenter to follow the recommendation.
I wasn't waiting.
I think it was seconded by everybody. I'll pick a name, Mr. Olympio. On the motion, Mr. Miko, please.
I'm not saying this to be smart or funny, but I would wait till after January 20th to send that letter, just so we have a new Secretary of Education in place at the federal level. Thank you.
So, good point. Mrs. Dunn?
I actually, I just wanted to let everyone know that the Mass Association of School Committees passed a resolution, and PBD is on record as supporting this resolution. But I do think that a letter from our superintendent, from this board, on behalf of this school committee, is going to give it added weight. And if I could, I'll just tell you what the resolution was. Be it resolved that MASC rejects the calls for the students of 2022 who missed their 10th grade Mcas testing to be required to make it up in the 2020-2021 school year or ever. We demand those students be held harmless for not taking the Mcas, and that their graduation requirements shall be determined by locally controlled voices of the school committee and school administration within the remaining graduation requirements of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which talks about the January and February ELA. Additionally, we reiterate our call for a moratorium on all high-stakes testing for the 2020-2021 school year so that all students can benefit from their time being focused on direct instruction, and we urge the legislature to enact a moratorium on high-stakes testing of 3 years. And that resolution passed as presented on a vote of 112 to 9 with 2 abstentions. So it was overwhelmingly endorsed by MASC, which means that a letter goes to the legislature that our MASC staff advocates and lobbies on behalf of all the school committees in the state. Based upon that, they will be advocating very vigorously on this very issue of preventing the high-stakes testing taking place during this pandemic. So I can send that language to Dr. Vidala anyway, if you wanted to include some of it in the letter. But I think it's a good idea because it just puts the Department of Education on further notice that they really need to think about what they're doing, enforcing this high-stake testing. When you think about it, we've talked about it before, about just the amount of days that are taken away from education for the testing. Every day is precious right now. We see this. We're trying to get as much education and instruction in the children as possible. And then they're going to mandate that we go ahead and take, I can't remember how many days it was. At one point it was like 2 weeks out of the 180 days just for testing. And that just flies in the face of what's happening right now. So I definitely support this motion, and I just wanted you all to know that you've been noted already as opposition to it.
Good. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you.
That's great. Mr. Amico.
And one other thing I'd add through the chairs, we had that presentation about mental health, and I would imagine when we get back to a full, regular setting, we're gonna need a lot of resources for mental health. We really are. Kids are gonna be, going from 2 days in a classroom to 5. There's gonna be a lot of coaching needed with our students, both emotionally and instructionally. So I thank you, Ms. Dunn, for bringing that up, because I would be in favor of that as well.
Great. Oh, yeah, we better, we have our 10 p.m. curfew. So, we do have a motion on the floor. I guess let's do a roll call vote on that, please.
Mr. Amico?
Yes.
Mr. Onotis?
Yes.
Ms. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Olympio?
Yes.
Ms. Griffin-Dunn?
Yes.
All right.
And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Vidala. That was a lot of great information. Appreciate that. All right, public participation. Do we have anybody looking to speak today?
Okay, if anybody in public participation would like to speak, please raise your hand and I'll bring you into the meeting. We have 7 attendees. None of them have raised their hand just yet.
Okay, well, let's go to written communications. We do not have any today, so we'll move on to subcommittee reports. Mr. Hockman, Education Subcommittee?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I think as a governmental body, we're exempt from the curfew. We are. So, in any event, Under the Academic Education Subcommittee, I would like to report gleefully that a redistricting subcommittee has been formed. The information must have been leaked out because I got a phone call from Tim Mead, and I don't know if any of you know Tim Mead, but he's the president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, and he must have gotten this roster, and it happens to be 9 people, so he thought it might have been a baseball team, but in fact... and I do want to publicly recognize those that have offered to volunteer for this non-paying position, and the subcommittee will consist of myself, City Councilor Ryan Melville, Dr. Josh Vidala, Joanne Eager, teacher over at the Sam Brown School, Jackie Orfanos, principal of the Center School, Jocelyn Sullivan, assistant principal over at the South Memorial, AJ Gruby, a guidance counselor over at the Welch, Dr. Herbert Levine, our former superintendent a few times over, and the president of the PTO at the Carroll School, Christina Tadiello. So that is the redistricting committee. We will or intend to convene for our initial meeting before the winter break, and it'll be both live and on Zoom, so anyone that wishes to attend, you're all welcome to attend either virtually or in person. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hockman. Appreciate that. Okay, Finance Subcommittee, Mrs. Carpenter?
Nothing to report.
Okay, School Safety?
Nothing new to report.
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Athletics and Wellness, the report's been made. Quality and Standards, Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Quality and Standards Subcommittee met last night here at the Higgins, and the order of business was to discuss a policy regarding memorials. So the committee discussed a plan for going forward and discussed the issue of coming up with a policy. We want to formulate some definitions and try to make sure that we are dealing with very specific displays and the way that the schools are able to honor people and the way that things will be placed in the schools. We reviewed a lot of the policies that we have. We reviewed a list of current memorials throughout the district that Dr. Vidala very kindly created for us. We looked at actually our full facilities policies about all kinds of things that are related to naming buildings, naming rooms, and having memorials. Our next meeting is scheduled for 6 p.m. prior to the school committee meeting of the 22nd. And at that point, we hope to have some more things solidified, ready to go forward. We did have a chance to have some public participation at the meeting, and we heard from a student at the high school. And what we want to do and intend to do is to invite various people, various groups to come and have input into this. And it won't be solved in a matter of 1 or 2 meetings, because we want to do it right. The model policy says that there should not be memorials in schools. And here in Peabody, we've had a practice of having memorials to people who were significant to a school or meant something to the school. So we don't want to stop that completely. We want to have something going forward so that the building principals will know what is expected and what is allowed. And to have a process also of having memorials or displays approved so that we might be able to work things through. And we know that there are always people on both sides of this of an issue, and we want to make sure that we address all of that as well. So it's next meeting, 6 p.m., December 22nd.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Okay, parent and student advisory boards.
Oh,
Mrs.
thank
Dunn?
you, Mr. Mayor. The next meeting of the Parent Advisory Board will be next Monday at 7 p.m. It will be a Zoom meeting, and the guest speaker, first we'll introduce Dr. Vidala and have have him appear for a few minutes to meet the parents. But then we're going to have a representative from the Safe Routes to School come and speak with the parents, and just to get that program started, to find out, you know, what might work for our district, and give parents that information to take back to their schools and see what they would be interested in. So again, that will be next week at 7 p.m. on Monday night.
Great, thank you. Building and Grounds, Mr. Amico?
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay, Special Education Parent Advisory Board?
Yes, we had a meeting actually tonight at 6 o'clock, and Dr. Vidala and Ms. Chioda were, I was thankful that they were able to attend and also meet a number of the special education parents. I thought it was a very informative meeting. The parents appreciated the outreach by Dr. Vidal and Ms. Chioda. And really, some of the things that we talked about were, you know, the parents were looking for maybe some video type of support in the special education area. Their concerns were socialization and mental health issues, but overall, they're very thankful for being part of really the Cohort C, and it was a really positive, uplifting meeting. So we'll be scheduling something probably after the holidays, and we'll take it from there.
Terrific, thank you, Mr. Olympio. City Council and Legislative Delegation, is there a notice?
Nothing new.
Okay. All right, so our next meeting is, has been stated, the 22nd of December, 2 weeks from today. And items for that agenda will be handled in the regular course. And thank you, we covered a lot of important items today. Appreciate everyone's time.
Happy birthday, Mr. Amico,
Happy birthday, Mr. Amico.
Mr. Onotis, and Mr. Olympio.
Happy
Birthday
Mr.
week on the
Olympio
school.
is- yep.
This committee has aged 3 years since we last convened.
At least.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank
We're
you,
gonna have
everyone.
to
Good night.
refer things to school committee years.